Thragg. Thragg is the Grand Regent of the Viltrum Empire and the most powerful Viltrumite in the Invincible universe, surpassing even elite warriors like Omniman in Conquest. Born on Viltrum, he was bred and trained from birth to become the strongest Viltrumite alive, a goal he achieved through constant combat training and unmatched genetics. Thragg has lived for thousands of years, one of the natural advantages of being a Viltrumite. Their biology slows down aging to a near halt, keeping them in peak physical condition for millennia. He can survive in the vacuum of space thanks to his immense lung capacity and minimal need for food or oxygen. His combat ability is further strengthened by reactive adaptation, letting him grow stronger through experience and learn from every battle. He can resist extreme temperatures, endure intense gravity, and function effectively in any hostile environment. I'm not going to go through every Viltrumite power because, more or less, they all share the same abilities. The main difference in strength between them comes from experience. Viltrumites grow stronger by pushing their physical and mental limits, not just through time or damage. Their growth comes from deliberate effort, through intense training and combat against powerful opponents. It's similar to how Saiyans evolve after near-death experiences, though for Viltrumites it's not an instant power boost. They have a natural ability called reactive adaptation that lets them grow stronger with age and experience, but the real gains come from struggle and victory. That's why Thragg became the strongest Viltrumite. He trained without rest since birth and faced countless challenges. He fought and defeated some of the most powerful Viltrumites, including Conquest and Battle Beast, the latter of whom he killed and skinned, wearing his hide as a trophy to mark his dominance. That act alone cements his reputation as one of the strongest beings in the Invincible universe. Thragg's rise to power began after the death of Emperor Argal, a leader he once respected for his strength. Following a brutal Viltrumite civil war, he was appointed Grand Regent and tasked with finding Argal's heir. But after the Scourge virus nearly wiped out their species, Thragg abandoned that mission, believing the heir to be dead. From then on, he ruled the Empire without question. He kept Argal's skull as a reminder of the Empire's fragility, and would consult it before making major decisions. He ruled with a belief in Viltrumite superiority, and the survival of the fittest ideal. A ruthless strategist, Thragg valued strength above everything. But he wasn't afraid to use diplomacy when it benefited him. He even formed a truce with the coalition of planets to serve his goals, mainly to repopulate the Viltrumite race through hybrid offspring. Thragg serves as the main antagonist to both Omniman and Invincible. After defeating the Graysons, he initially spared them, offering a chance to serve the Empire. But when he discovered that Nolan Grayson was Argal's true heir, his entire outlook changed. That revelation threatened his claim to leadership, and drove him into a violent pursuit that eventually led to his exile after being overthrown by the Viltrumite Council in favor of Nolan. Even then, Thragg didn't stop. He went rogue, determined to take back his throne by building an army of Viltrumite hybrids. Despite all his power, he was eventually defeated by Invincible in their final confrontation, ending his reign as Grand Regent. Thragg's entire motivation was built on one purpose: to preserve the Viltrumite Empire and ensure its survival after the near extinction caused by the Scourge virus. To him, strength defined worth, and his rule was proof of what he believed in, that only the strongest had the right to lead. Argal. Emperor Argal was the first and most revered ruler of the Viltrum Empire. He was the progenitor of the Viltrumite royal bloodline, with his son Nolan being the father of Mark and Oliver Grayson, which makes him the grandfather of the series' main protagonist. Argal was seen as a ruler of great wisdom and leadership, the one responsible for creating what became known as the Golden Age of Viltrum, a time of unmatched prosperity and stability for his people. His reign was guided more by intellect than brute force, and that sense of balance earned him deep respect from his subjects, who saw him as a ruler that led with both strength and reason. Even with all that wisdom, Argal held a firm belief in social Darwinism. To him, weakness was a sickness that had to be wiped out for the Viltrumites to stay dominant. That belief became the driving force behind his empire's expansion, pushing Viltrum into a galaxy-spanning conquest that brought countless worlds under its rule. There's no clear record of how strong Argal really was, so it's hard to rank him, but by all accounts, he stood among the strongest of his kind during his lifetime. His bloodline was considered the purest in Viltrumite history, producing descendants with greater strength, resilience, and near invulnerability compared to the rest of their race. He was said to have an unusual resistance to the Scourge virus, the same virus that nearly wiped out his people, a trait likely tied to his superior genetics. Argal's story ends in betrayal. He was assassinated by Thetis, a former servant who saw him as a tyrant hiding behind the mask of a wise emperor. After his death, Thragg rose to power, swearing to avenge him and search for his lost heir, which eventually led to Nolan's discovery. Argal's legacy remains complicated. He's remembered as the ruler who shaped the Viltrumite Empire into a force of unmatched strength, but also as the man whose ideals of purity and dominance cast a shadow that his descendants would spend centuries trying to escape. Nolan Grayson, better known as Omniman, stands as one of the most powerful and complex Viltrumites in existence. Born on Viltrum as Nolan, he rose through the Empire's ranks as a formidable warrior and commander, leading countless successful campaigns across the galaxy. As the heir of Emperor Argal, Nolan's true lineage was kept secret to protect him from political enemies within the Empire. Following the near extinction of the Viltrumite race after the Scourge virus outbreak, which left fewer than 50 survivors, the Empire shifted tactics. Instead of open warfare, they began sending lone Viltrumites to infiltrate planets, weaken their defenses, and prepare them for eventual subjugation. Nolan's assignment was Earth. On arrival, he adopted the identity of Nolan Grayson, posing as a human author and superhero to earn the trust of the Global Defense Agency and the Guardians of the Globe. During his time on Earth, he saved and later married a human woman named Deborah, and together they had a son, Mark Grayson, better known as Years later, Nolan would have another son, Oliver, after his rule on the planet Thraxa. Nolan's original mission was simple: eliminate Earth's greatest defenders and prepare the planet for Viltrumite conquest. But over time, he found himself torn between his loyalty to his people and the love he developed for his family. That conflict defined him. His devotion to the Viltrumite ideal of strength and order clashed constantly with his growing sense of humanity. While his belief in Viltrumite superiority never fully faded, his motivations were never rooted in cruelty. In terms of sheer power, Nolan ranks among the strongest Viltrumites ever recorded. After thousands of years, he retained both his physical might and tactical brilliance. If ranked by strength, he would likely stand as the fourth strongest Viltrumite by the end of the series. His feats speak for themselves. He stopped an asteroid the size of Texas, destroyed the Flaxan Empire using nothing but speed. He survived orbital bombardments from the GDA's Hammer satellite, and endured decades trapped in the Flaxan dimension without aging or breaking down. Nolan's story took a turn when he abandoned his mission and defected from the Empire. His betrayal led to his capture and imprisonment, but he later escaped with the help of Alan the Alien. Together, they worked to unite the coalition of planets against the Viltrumite Empire, a rebellion that might never have succeeded without Nolan's knowledge of Viltrumite weaknesses and strategy. Eventually, Nolan's true heritage as Argal's heir was exposed, a truth Thragg had long concealed to maintain his rule. During the decisive confrontation, Nolan was nearly killed, but ultimately recognized by the surviving Viltrumites as their rightful emperor. As ruler, he sought to break away from the Empire's violent traditions, forging alliances and vowing to end the cycle of conquest. His decision to cooperate with Rex to secure the future of his people created tension with Mark, but it showed how far Nolan had evolved, from a weapon of empire to a leader seeking redemption. Nolan Grayson represents the struggle between love and loyalty, between what one is born to be and what one chooses to become. His actions shaped not just the fate of the Viltrumites, but the course of the entire galaxy. Without him, there would be no Invincible, and for that reason, many see him as the greatest Viltrumite of all. Thetis. Thetis is remembered as the first Viltrumite to rise against his own empire, a rebellion that forever changed the course of Viltrumite history. Born on Viltrum during the era of Emperor Argal, he was once a loyal soldier of the Empire, devoted to its mission of conquest and dominance. But over time, he grew disillusioned by the endless violence and the ruthless ideology that defined his people. His conviction eventually led him to commit the unthinkable. He assassinated Emperor Argal himself. That single act shattered the Empire's stability. Thetis' rebellion wasn't driven by ambition or revenge. It came from a realization that the Viltrumite way of life could only lead to extinction. He turned his back on the Empire and dedicated the rest of his life to stopping it. To counter the threat of Viltrumite domination, He formed the Coalition of Planets, a unifying force of worlds determined to resist Viltrumite expansion. For thousands of years, Thetis led the coalition, guiding its members through both diplomacy and warfare, always staying one step ahead of his people's destructive reach. His most devastating weapon against the Empire was the Scourge virus, which he helped create using his own DNA. The virus was designed to target Viltrumite physiology specifically, stripping them of their strength and invulnerability. When released, it nearly wiped out the entire species, killing 99.9% of their population. The cost of that act was enormous, but Thetis saw it as a necessary sacrifice to ensure the survival of countless other civilizations. As a final safeguard, he even developed a second, more lethal strain in case the first one ever failed. For centuries, Thetis kept his identity hidden. To the Coalition, he was simply their mysterious leader, a figure with immense knowledge of the Viltrumites, but no apparent connection to them. He disguised himself by growing a thick beard that concealed the signature Viltrumite mustache, a trait that would have instantly revealed who he truly was. His secret finally came to light in a moment that has become one of the series' most iconic scenes. In front of Alan the alien, he tore off his beard in a gesture known as the Tulok pull, revealing the truth that the leader of the Coalition was himself a Viltrumite. It was both a confession and a declaration of loyalty, showing Alan that his cause was genuine. Even with his age and the toll of centuries-long battles, Thetis remained incredibly powerful. Having lived since Argal's reign, his strength far surpassed that of an average Viltrumite. He played a crucial role in the final destruction of Viltrum, proving that time and conviction could make even the most battle-worn warrior unstoppable. After centuries of defiance, Thragg eventually caught up to him and avenged Argal's death, killing Thetis and ending his long fight. Even in death, Thetis' influence endures. His rebellion gave birth to the only organized resistance strong enough to challenge the Viltrumite Empire, and his creation of the Coalition of Planets ensured that his ideals would outlive him. In the Invincible universe, Thetis stands as proof that even among the most brutal of races, one could rise above instinct and choose a different path. Craig. Craig is a high-ranking Viltrumite general and serves as the second in command of the Viltrum Empire. In terms of strength, he stands on a level comparable to Omniman, though still beneath Grand Regent Thragg, whose brutal upbringing and relentless training made him the strongest of their kind. Like most Viltrumites, Craig was born on Viltrum and has lived for thousands of years. He survived the Scourge virus that nearly wiped out their race, though not without consequence. He lost one of his eyes to the infection, and now bears a cybernetic replacement as a reminder of that near extinction. Over the centuries, Craig rose through the ranks of the Empire, becoming one of its most trusted military figures. As part of his duties, he was tasked with overseeing Mark Grayson's progress on Earth after Nolan's defection. Craig made it clear that Mark's purpose was to prepare the planet for Viltrumite rule, and failure to do so would mean death. To ensure Mark's compliance, he sent Anissa to monitor and persuade him, but when she failed, Craig dismissed Mark as a wasted opportunity, disappointed that someone with his potential could not be brought under Viltrumite control. Craig was also present during the events following Nolan's imprisonment. When Nolan destroyed much of the Viltrumite prison, Craig witnessed his defiance firsthand. Before leaving, he personally roughed Nolan up, a show of authority meant to remind everyone of the chain of command. His loyalty to the Empire and Thragg was absolute, something that became especially clear when Conquest returned defeated from his mission to kill Mark. Craig harshly reprimanded him, reminding him of his place and forcing him to kneel before Thragg. No one, not even Conquest, was allowed to address the Grand Regent without showing submission. Despite his discipline and experience, Craig struggled with intermittent explosive disorder, a condition that caused uncontrollable outbursts of rage. Even for a Viltrumite, whose species thrived on aggression, Craig's temper was considered extreme. It often clouded his judgment in battle and earned him a reputation for being dangerously unpredictable, though it also made him a terrifying opponent. After the Viltrumite War, when the surviving Viltrumites went into hiding on Earth, Craig adopted the disguise of a biker, concealing his cybernetic eye with an eye patch. Craig developed relationships with several women during his time on Earth. Many of them bore his children, making him second only to Thragg in the number of offspring among the Viltrumites. But unlike Thragg, whose breeding was motivated by imperial strategy, Craig's attachments were sincere. For all his violence and temper, he genuinely cared for the women he loved and the families he built with them. Those connections marked a quiet shift in his character, a subtle form of redemption that showed even a battle-hardened Viltrumite could find meaning beyond conquest and war. Conquest. Conquest is one of the most feared and powerful Viltrumites in existence, serving as a high-ranking enforcer of the Empire and one of the most dangerous antagonists in the Invincible universe. He is often regarded as the second most powerful Viltrumite, surpassed only by Grand Regent Thragg. His strength, resilience, and appetite for destruction made him both a legend and a curse among his kind. Despite the Viltrumites' admiration for power, Conquest lived in isolation. His unmatched might and violent nature made even his own people fear him. He embodied the idea of suffering from success, so powerful that no one could truly stand beside him. While most Viltrumites were respected for their dominance, Conquest was tolerated more than celebrated. Many saw him as unstable, a weapon to be unleashed only when necessary. The Empire used him as a tool of devastation, sending him from planet to conquer and destroy, and every mission only refined his skill and deepened his infamy. His real name was lost to time. Conquest was not a title he chose. It was given to him because he had never failed to conquer. Conquest was born during the Argol era, making him one of the earliest Viltrumites to exist. Like others of his race, he aged slowly, remaining in his prime for thousands of years. He survived both the Great Purge and the Scourge virus, events that nearly wiped out the Viltrumite population. The virus left lasting damage on many survivors, and Conquest was no exception. He later suffered devastating injuries in battle against the Rognars, losing his right arm and the vision in his right eye. Even so, he refused to succumb. He replaced his missing arm with a prosthetic and continued fighting, driven not by loyalty or duty, but by his love for combat itself. He found joy in battle, in pain, in the challenge of breaking opponents who dared to stand against him. The Viltrumite mission of Conquest was to him just an excuse, a way to justify the carnage he craved. When he was sent to Earth to monitor Mark Grayson and ensure the planet's subjugation, he treated it as another hunt. His confrontation with Invincible became one of the most brutal moments in the series, leaving cities in ruins. The fight ended only when Invincible, pushed to his limit, overwhelmed Conquest in a desperate and furious assault. But even death would not claim him easily. Conquest survived and was captured by Cecil Stedman, who sought information on the Viltrumite Empire. He later returned during the Viltrumite War, once again facing Invincible in combat. This time, the battle was his last. He was finally defeated and killed, but not forgotten. For a being who lived and died by violence, his death brought him something he had long been denied: respect. When Oliver suggested his body be cast into space, Nolan refused, insisting that Conquest be given a proper burial. Despite everything, Nolan recognized him as one of the greatest Viltrumite warriors to ever live. Conquest's life was a tragedy wrapped in brutality. He was a monster of his own making, driven by battle until the end. Yet in death, he was finally seen not as a weapon, but as what he truly was: a warrior who had spent eternity fighting for a purpose he never really believed in. Anissa. Anissa is a Viltrumite warrior who was sent to Earth as part of the Empire's mission to assess and prepare the planet for conquest. Her task was to monitor Mark Grayson, the half-human son of Nolan Grayson. Like most of her kind, Anissa's physical appearance hardly reflects her age. Short dark hair, striking features, and a youthful look despite being over 1,000 years old, thanks to the Viltrumite trait of decelerated aging. Among the Viltrumites, she stands out as one of the most powerful female warriors. Her strength and durability are said to be so immense that even the combined might of Earth's superheroes would not be enough to take her down. Anissa's reasoning was rooted in what she saw as duty. After the war, Thragg commanded all surviving Viltrumites to blend into human society and reproduce to rebuild their race. She initially despised the order, disgusted by the idea of mating with humans. But in time, she tried to find peace in that life, marrying a human named Scott Murphy and having a daughter with him. Despite the horror of her earlier actions, Anissa is not a one-dimensional villain. She is written with a rare complexity, capable of mercy and cruelty in equal measure. She once helped Mark save a cruise ship from a giant kaiju, refusing to slaughter innocents without reason. Even in her final moments, her emotions remained conflicted. She expressed a kind of remorse, but not regret, believing that the birth of her son, Marky, justified what she had done. That belief made her one of the most hated figures in the Invincible universe, and one of the hardest to judge. Tula is one of the oldest surviving female Viltrumites, and a warrior whose name carries weight even among her own kind. Having lived through the Great Purge, she earned her reputation as one of the Empire's most ruthless and efficient enforcers, a symbol of what it meant to embody pure Viltrumite strength and loyalty. Her life revolves around the harsh code of the Viltrum Empire, where compassion is seen as weakness, and weakness as a reason for death. Tula is unwavering in that belief, and her approach to combat reflects it. She fights with precision and purpose, relying on a combination of her spear and her bladed braid, both tools of execution and control. In battle, she's methodical, rarely emotional, always in command of her movements. She studies her opponents, adjusts her strategy, and strikes with the certainty of someone who has mastered warfare across centuries. Her skill and tactical intelligence make her one of the most formidable female Viltrumites ever shown. Few could stand against her, and fewer still could outthink her in battle. When Viltrum fell, Tula's story took a quieter turn. She retreated to Earth, where she chose a different path from what the Empire demanded. While others followed Thragg's command to breed freely and rebuild their numbers, Tula instead fell in love with a human and started a family. It was a decision that went against the collective order of her species, but reflected a rare human side she had long buried under discipline and duty. Still, the call of the Empire never left her. When Nolan Grayson rose to lead the Viltrumites and called his people back to arms to face Thragg, Tula returned without hesitation. She reattached her warblade and resumed her role as a soldier, ready to die in service of the Empire she could never truly abandon. Lucan. Lucan, often humorously nicknamed Steve Harvey by fans because of his striking resemblance to the comedian, is one of the more memorable Viltrumites in the Invincible universe. A warrior who has lived for thousands of years, Lucan embodies both the brutality and discipline that define his species. He's depicted as a tall, dark-skinned man with a bald head and the signature Viltrumite mustache. His build sets him apart from his peers. Broad and heavy-set, more like a veteran strongman than a sculpted soldier. Every movement reflects raw power and an endurance honed through centuries of combat. Beneath his sadistic edge lies a soldier who fully believes in the Viltrumite philosophy of strength, hierarchy, and conquest. His discipline and loyalty make him one of the Empire's most reliable enforcers. His most notable role comes when he's sent to apprehend Nolan for treason after discovering that Nolan fathered a half-human child on Earth. During this mission, Lucan becomes the first Viltrumite Mark Grayson encounters aside from his father. Their clash is pivotal, serving as Mark's first true confrontation with the violent legacy he's inherited. Lucan doesn't treat him like a boy caught in the middle. He challenges him as a potential soldier of the Empire, testing whether Mark is worthy of his bloodline. Yet beneath that loyalty, Lucan carries an uncommon streak of humanity. Unlike most of his kind, he fell deeply in love with a human woman and married her, choosing to stay faithful even after Grand Regent Thragg ordered all surviving Viltrumites to breed and repopulate. Together they had 3 children, a decision that quietly defied his species' cold pragmatism. Though Lucan never renounced the Empire, his devotion to one woman and one family set him apart from his peers. Even after Nolan's eventual rise as the new ruler of the Viltrumites, Lucan remained a steadfast supporter of Viltrumite law and order.